Welcome to Real Talk Real Women. My name is Miriam Khalladi and today we have competitive powerlifter and personal trainer Alese Smith on the show. Welcome Alese, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
Let's dive straight into it and rewind to 2009. I know back then your weight started dropping quickly. What was going on in your life at that point?
During that time of my life, I had gone through some pretty rough circumstances. And I was like 18 at the time, so I didn't really have any real coping mechanisms. And so I was struggling with body image when I was growing up, and I kind of developed a little bit of an eating disorder. And yeah, long story short, a few things kind of happened that just kind of caused me to dive straight into it, kind of head first. So what happened was I was actively living in that, and my weight started dropping pretty quickly, and it dropped down to about, I think, 107. And then at that point, the doctors knew that I was dealing with that, so they put me on a weight gain diet. Um, and yeah, they didn't know I had something called celiac disease, which is a major malabsorption issue to wheat and gluten, which basically means when you eat it, you get really bad damage in your gut and you can't absorb everything. Um, and so the diet that they put me on was full of that, and I went on it, and then my weight went even further south. Yeah, and it dropped very quickly. And before I knew it, I was at 76 pounds. Yeah, which I'm 5'5", so that's pretty dangerous. So at that point, I was dealing with both an eating disorder and celiac disease and the damage from that. Thankfully, someone, when I was at my worst, I was really not in a good place. Someone mentioned something to my mom about celiac disease and how it can cause really bad weight loss and malabsorption. And so we looked more into it, and then I got tested, and sure enough, I had it, and had been pretty badly damaged by the diet I was on. And so at that point, I went gluten free. Really kind of dove into what I needed to do to get some weight on my body, and just started eating for my life, basically. And Yeah, thankfully somehow I survived it. Yeah, I mean, I've been through a lot since then. I've been in full recovery now for about 16 months. Yeah, from then to now, I kind of had to run the gamut of different behaviors while I was putting on the weight with an eating disorder. When everything from it started out as anorexia, and then it took on um, exercise bulimia, binge eating. Then I admitted myself to rehab, and then some girls were actively living in bulimia in rehab, and I kind of picked that up, and it was rough. But thankfully, I got through all of that, and then finally got into a place in my personal life where I was like, I've had enough of this, and so I decided to go to counseling and just get real with it. And that's kind of it brought me to where I am now, and kind of made me who I am now. So that was then. That was my story a little bit,
Right.
and now is a very different time in my life, thankfully.
Would you describe it as an inner struggle between body and mind? If you had to point out one thing, what was it that helped you the most in your recovery?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know anybody viewing this. Everybody has different faiths, but I'm a Christian, and my faith in God definitely got me through it. I had a lot of to say it nicely, days in hell when I was sick, and also dealing with the eating disorder. And if it were not for God's presence in my life, I would have given up very easily. But also with putting on the weight, I was dealing with kind of a double-edged sword, because I had to put on the weight to get healthy, but my mind didn't want me to get healthy, if that makes sense, because I was so sick in my mind. But just throughout all of that, I just knew that, God had a big purpose for my life, and that if I would get through this with his daily strength he gave me, that, I would go on to help a lot of people who are struggling with the same thing. And yeah, he got me through all the workouts in the beginning and just the days where it was hard to get by on my own. So that was absolutely it.
I know that powerlifting has played a key role in your journey as well. How did that start out and why powerlifting?
Ah, good question. I love it. Well, when I was putting back on the weight, I decided that if I were going to put on the weight, I wanted to be healthy when I did put on the weight. So that got me involved in, started with weight training. And I also decided to study to become a personal trainer so that not only could I help myself, but help a bunch of other people with that knowledge. And then when I was towards the tail end of my experience with my eating disorder, I was still kind of hanging on to over exercising. Like I was spending a lot of time in the gym doing weights, but too much time. There is too much exercise. And a good friend of mine, Gordon Lake, that's his name. He would always come into the gym and be like, Alese, why are you still here? You get out of the gym, and he was a power lifter. And it kind of got me thinking about a different way of exercising, and not only just a different way, but a different motive. Because up until that point, working out in the gym was all about, how I looked, and, there was never anything more to it. But then what I realized was that with powerlifting, it took the focus off of how you look and put it on what you can do. And that was empowering for me as a woman to kind of embrace that mentality. And yeah, so I kind of started dabbling with it, and then I also knew that when I made the decision to do my first meet, that I would have to kind of ditch my old lifestyle cold turkey, because you can't be restricting your calories or doing anything like that and succeed in powerlifting. So it took me a little bit to get to that point, but then I just dove headfirst, and I was like, I'm done with that old way of life. Let's start a new way of life. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I've never felt stronger or healthier, and just not only in my body, but also in my mind. And that's also a result of counseling and just working really hard at it. But I cannot emphasize it enough that it's so amazing when you really focus on how your body's feeling and what it can do, not just how it looks. I mean, you're still going to look amazing, but you look amazing no matter what weight you are. But it's just I've fallen in love with the sport, and all it's helped me to gain in my life. So
Great to hear that, Elise.
yeah.
And in an article you wrote, you said that you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have, and that you learned that firsthand. Where do you find your strength today?
I still find my strength in God. But not only my faith in God, that's definitely foundational, but also just, I find tremendous strength in knowing that, what I'm doing today is going to affect people tomorrow, that there are people watching, that might be fighting battles that I don't even know about, but it really helps me to just stay on the good path, knowing that, I'm going to go on to help a lot of people with this. Even if it was intended for harm, it's going to turn around and do good for both myself and others. But yeah, definitely I find a lot of strength in helping other people with it. So, and with my love for it too. So,
Great,
yeah.
great. And you describe your approach to nutrition as flexible dieting. What does that mean? And what has been the most valuable lesson you've learned about nutrition over the last couple of years?
That's a great question. Well, I've pretty much done everything with nutrition, as a lot of people have, but I recently hired a powerlifting coach by the name of Paul Revelia, and he introduced me to this concept. His coach is Lane Norton, but he made the point to me, and this is probably the most important thing I've learned about nutrition, is that whatever you do has to be sustainable. Otherwise, it's not going to last. You got to enjoy it, and it's got to fit with your lifestyle. And I've really been working with my clients as a trainer on this, and they've been loving it. But flexible dieting is basically, we all have different metabolisms because we all have different activity levels and lifestyles and everything and body types. So we have different needs. So flexible dieting, basically, for the most part, you're eating, whole nutritious foods, but you can basically, as long as you get your micronutrients matched and your fiber intake matched, you can eat what you choose within those macronutrients. And you use like an app called like MyFitnessPal. So you count, carbs, fats, and proteins, and you just make it fit within your needs, but you can choose whatever foods you'd like. So really what I like about it is it promotes balance, because no foods are off limits. There are no really good and bad foods. There's bad amounts, but there are really no good and bad foods. You can have whatever you'd like. On a daily basis recently, my average diet is, I got the good, I got fruits and vegetables, chicken, potatoes, things like that. But then I also have, maybe a little ice cream each day, or, a few cookies here and there. And what I found is that at one point in my life, I really struggled with binging, because in my mind, it was like, I'm never going to have it again. Might as well eat the whole thing. But now, in doing this approach, since I can have it every day, I don't feel the urge to do that anymore, because I know, look, I can have it tonight and tomorrow and the next night if I want, and it's not going to affect me in any negative way. So, I love it. Everybody has a different way that they like to do things, but that's my personal way that I like to do it. So.
And after overcoming so much yourself and having found both confidence and joy, you also see this potential in others. There are still so many women out there who lack belief in themselves. What would you say to those listening in today who are holding back?
I would say to that, at least in my experience, when I felt held back, it was my fears holding me back. Could be fear of anything, really. But just know that if you push through your fears and face them, most of the time your dreams are on the other side of that. That's what I've found. Personal example, I was terrified of putting on weight. I was horrified of it. But I found that in getting healthy and biting the bullet and putting on muscle, embracing the weight gain, I've gotten strong, and I've discovered my love of lifting and have just discovered a whole entire new life that I dreamed of. But I had to face some pretty big fears in order to find those dreams. So just whatever it is holding you back, just tackle it head on and get it out of the way so that you can go on to live the life that you want to live. Because we only get one life, and a lot of us walk around thinking, oh, we have next year and the year after that. But the truth is that we're not guaranteed any tomorrows, so don't let anything today steal your joy. And if there is something stealing your joy, do whatever you got to do to, overcome it, get rid of it, whatever you need to do, push through it. So one life, live it with all you got.
I love that, Alese. Where can people go to learn more about you and connect with you online?
I would say my primary place, believe it or not, is Facebook. My page, anybody can friend me or message me. I do have a website, like more of a professional account on a website called Thumbtack, THUMTACK. But I would definitely recommend Facebook. I'm a very open individual, so if you message me, I'll definitely message you back. Alese Smith.
Okay, great. And I will also make sure to put your links below this video.
Okay, sounds good.
Is there anything else you would like to talk about today that you feel we've missed?
I think that's everything, if that was all the questions you wanted to ask me.
Right. This has been great, Alese. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. And thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Khalladi. For more inspiration, check out our website at realtalkrealwomen.com.